Most sales reps think that closing more deals is simply about saying the right words, but in reality, it's about reading intent faster than the prospect can hide it. What actually separates high-level closers from everyone else is their ability to understand what's happening beneath the words in real time. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through exactly how I apply behavioral profiling and body language concepts and actually use them to directly help you close more B2B sales calls. So this is not theory and it's not vibes. This is a tactical operating manual to show you how to do that. And I'm going to show you exactly what to look for, what those signals actually mean, and what to do when you see them. And when you understand this, sales stops feeling pushy, dramatic, or unpredictable, and you're going to stop chasing objections and you're going to start closing when the timing is actually right. What is going on, guys? My name is Magnor, and I've built and scaled multiple B2B companies to $500,000 to $1 million per month. So what I'm showing you here is going to be tactical advice, not theory. Let's get into it. The first thing that you need to understand is that humans lie with words, but they rarely lie with their behavior. And every prospect on a sales call is constantly answering one subconscious question. Do I feel safe, understood, and in control right now? And your job in sales is not persuasion, your job is diagnosis. And the moment you try to close deals without reading intent, you introduce pressure. And all pressure does is it triggers threats, and threats kill deals. And elite closers don't overpower resistance or push through it. They avoid creating resistance in the first place simply by knowing when to move forward and when to slow down by reading their body language. At its core, sales is a comfort versus threat game. And one of the most valuable skills that you can develop inside that game is learning how to lower sales resistance. And sales resistance is ultimately what happens when a prospect feels like you're trying to force an outcome. And the moment someone senses that they're being sold to or that you as a sales rep are being pushy, their nervous system shifts into defense mode. And they stop being honest, they stop giving you real information, and they start protecting themselves. And this is where most deals actually die, way before an objection is even spoken. And when sales resistance is high, prospects ultimately block you off early, and they start giving you surface level answers, deflect questions, and say things that sound logical, but simply aren't true. Not because they're bad people, but because this defensiveness shuts honesty off. And here's the rule that you need to internalize. You should never try to close a prospect when sales resistance is high. Because what you'll get back isn't the truth. You'll get a knee-jerk reaction, and those knee-jerk reactions sound like objections. They say they need to think about it. They want to compare options, or they don't have the budget, or they can probably do it themselves. And most of the time, those aren't real objections. They're simply protective responses. All right, let me give you a real-life example of how this works. For example, let's say that you were out late at night in high school smoking weed with a buddy. And imagine you come home late at night with red eyes and you talk to your dad. Your dad asks you where you were and you already understand the intent behind the question. And if you tell the truth, you're getting in trouble. So you give a filtered answer that actually protects you. Now, on the contrary, imagine your friend asks you the next morning why you were out so late. There's no threat, there's no punishment, and there's no hidden motive. And you tell them everything. And you tell them, yeah, man, we got super baked, we watched a movie, we ate a ton of food. And the difference between those two conversations isn't morality, it's simply resistance. And sales works the exact way. And the reality is you cannot read body language without establishing a baseline. A baseline is how someone behaves when they're neutral and they're comfortable. And early in the call, before pricing, before objections, and before the stakes even raise, you should be observing how fast they speak, how animated they are, how much they gesture, how steady their eye contact is, and how relaxed their posture is. You gotta check everything in their default state. Everything you read later should be judged against change, not behavior itself. A fast talker slowing down matters, a quiet person staying quiet does not. At the beginning of your call, your only job is to ask simple, low-stakes questions and let them talk. And observe without having to steer the conversation. Because you're not selling yet, you're simply checking their baseline and calibrating. In sales conversations, live and die on comfort and threat. Comfort means the nervous system feels safe, and threat means the nervous system senses risk or loss of control. And when someone feels comfortable, their body is going to stay open. Their breathing is steady, and their posture is ultimately relaxed. Their eye contact is going to stay natural, and the responses are flowing easily. But when threat appears, the body closes up, and you'll see them leaning away, sudden arm touching, neck touching, face rubbing, shallow breathing, or simply just delayed answers and clipped responses that weren't there earlier. Now, what matters is not the signal itself, it's the change. Comfort means continue, threat means slow down, and simply call it out lightheartedly. And if threat appears and you continue selling, you're just going to create resistance. And when threat shows up, you stop selling immediately. Lower the pressure, reframe the conversation. For example, you might say, hey man, let me slow this down and make sure I'm explaining this clearly. Or hey man, sounds like something here needs more context. Or hey, right now, what's your biggest concern? And you never challenge threat. You simply resolve it and call it out lightheartedly to get them to open up. Now, objections don't come out of nowhere. They form silently first. And cognitive load is mental strain, and it simply shows up before words do. You're going to notice long pauses, looking away while thinking, a tight jaw, slower speech, or even filler words. And this is simply uncertainty being processed. And most sales reps panic here and keep pitching, or worst of all, they don't even notice it. And that only increases cognitive load and turns uncertainty into resistance. And the correct move is simply just to pause, simplify, and clarify direction. And when this happens, you just got to call it out lightly. Instead of saying something heavy like, you seem nervous. You say, hey man, I noticed you shifted a bit when I mentioned that part. I guess what kind of caused that? And handled correctly, this gets them to open up like they would with a friend and gives you the chance to simply just pre-handle objections before they become defensive. Now, when you're building rapport is not about asking where someone's from. Rapport is behavioral synchronization. And people trust people who feel familiar at a nervous system level. And you build real rapport by matching speaking speed, energy level, sentence length, and ultimately decision-making pace. And if they're analytical, you slow down. If they're decisive, you tighten the language. And subtle alignment is enough because rapport automatically reduces threat and it increases tolerance for price and ultimately shortens sales cycles. And as a sales rep, you should never close without commitment signals. Commitment looks like leaning forward, asking about logistics, talking about implementation, maybe referencing their team or nodding naturally or switching from I language to we language. And this means they're already deciding. And your job isn't persuasion, your job is confirmation. And when these signals appear, you tighten the conversation, clarify next steps, and calmly confirm budget and timeline. If commitment signals are missing and you close anyway, you're going to trigger resistance and get the I need to think about it objection. Now, light pressure is diagnostic. It's not used to force a close. It's used to observe behavior under stress. And real interest stabilizes under light pressure, while polite or that fake interest is going to collapse. And you apply micro pressure by asking clear, reality-based questions like, hey, does this actually solve the problem you came with? Or then you go out and after that question, you watch their body language. And if comfort stays ready, you simply proceed. And if threat spikes, you slow down, clarify, and loop back. And pressure reveals truth, it does not create it. Now, silence increases emotional load, and people fill silence with truth. You want to use silence after pricing, after closed questions, and after objections. Do not rescue the moment. Observe behavior, and the first person to speak